the manager's report.
We'll start with Rich on the end. He's got some slides to show us.
Before we start with the slides, I'd like to go over, last month, the date of our safety meeting was our 5-year anniversary of the 5 years of no lost time. And on our November 6th safety meeting, when everyone was together, all the employees were given a hard hat embossed with the 5 years of no lost time, as well as they received a t-shirt, basically said that, of Overton Power District No Lost Time. That was an award for the safe work environment that we have here. And industry-wide, we could expect at least one lost time accident to happen each year. Industry-wide, the cost for one lost time accident is $38,000 for a lost time accident. So by having a workplace that's free of those accidents, you know, our employees go home every day from the workplace. Before we go to the slide, I just want
to... Did you want to mention when you received an award from...
Also, I have that here. Through Federated Insurance, we received our lost time, no lost time for this year, and it indicates that we had 420,446 hours without a lost time accident during that 5-year time frame. So that's from our insurance carrier. During the past month, we've continued to work on the Falcon substation, and also we've been doing, as part of our inspection program, we open up transformers, vault switches, and inspect those. We also go out and test poles. And in part of those testing programs, we're in backyards, and we've found a number of poles in those areas. The crews have been out. And in many of those areas, we have to hand dig those holes, haul the poles in by hand, and then set them by hand. So the crews have been doing those backyard replacements of a lot of secondary lift poles. We'll go ahead and start the slides now. This was, the crew was working out on that Cooper Crossing where the county is putting a new bridge, and they were there one morning and this beaver showed up. Right here, you know, you wouldn't think you've ever, you know, but there's beavers in that river. And they popped a picture of him as he was crossing the road. We can go to the next slide.
Probably one of them Moapa.
This is a 69 kV pole. This is a pole that was installed back in 1970. This was the 69 line to Mesquite, and we found this, the testing program found this pole, you can go to the next slide, had termites in it. And it was right out in the sand hills on this side of the mesa in an area that you would not expect. You know, there's no moisture except for the rain. And it's just a pole that was just full of termites out there. Next slide. But it was just hollow. On our 138 line, go to the next slide, they have on these dead-end structures, you can see the line coming in, that 795 ACSR, and then anchors going down. And what we're finding is that these bolts, this is a 7/8 bolt, and you can see the bend and the twist in this. And we've actually had these break. And we're going back through and replacing these with going from 7/8 to 1.25 inches to take the strength rating up on these from 14,000 to 18,000 pounds. This line basically feeds all of Overton, Logandale, all of Mesquite. And at certain times of the year, today being one of those, they're actually out working on those today. From 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., we can have an outage on that line. And so we're working on those, going through and replacing those pole bands. Those have been in place for 20 years now. That line came into service in 1992. But we continue to go through and make repairs on those. Next slide. That's little John there when they pulled the bolt out. This is on that same line. We are changing out some of those poles in that area. This pole, on the left-hand side, you can see it shelling. That's when the outer shell of the pole actually comes off, and it affects the structural integrity. And we're changing these dead. We can change one of these poles out in about 6 hours. It takes to do that, compared to about 2 days if we do it hot. So again, we pick the time of the year that we can make those Next slide, please. You can see they're putting the new pole in place now. As part of our inspection program, we found this elbow that had, the oil from the transformer had dripped on it and caused the rubber to swell. This was still in service, but this elbow was about 3 times the size. Next slide. There's about 4 slides here we can go through. And we went ahead and took an outage and replaced this, but it only affected the one customer, and we had a controlled time. So we found a number of problems throughout our inspection program, and we take care of those. Federated will be here on the 27th, and they'd like to review our program of, we have a 5-year program to inspect every piece of equipment. We log who's there, what they find. We have I've showed you the inspection forms that we use, and then our follow-up of when we find a problem, what we go out and do to repair that, what the follow-up is. So they're going to review that program on the 27th. Any questions or comments? That's my report then.
Okay. Well, John and the operations and engineering crew continue to develop the inspection and testing program that we're working on. They've also worked really hard to make sure that the records and the documentation are in good order, that they have that all saved electronically and can research and search that database to find continued problems, recurring problems, and to do change-outs when we need to. They're also doing the pole testing and some of the other things that go along with this inspection program. Our existing projects that Rich mentioned continue to move on, continue to move forward, and they're moving at a good pace. We have had a few new projects come in. We have Beehive Homes in Mesquite, which is an assisted living facility. They're building the first of 2 buildings. We have the Hafen Splash Park that is on the books. I don't know if that's named after Craig or if it's just on Hafen Lane, but we have the Hafen Splash Park that will be coming online. The Hickory Wind subdivision, which is in Pulte, consists of 45 building lots. And then the Flying J truck stop. The Flying J group has purchased the Mesquite Star Casino. They plan to raise the casino and keep the hotel and turn that into a large truck stop. It looks like they're planning on construction beginning around the January time frame. So that will be a nice addition to Mesquite and put that facility back in operation. We're also working with one of our customers who wants to install a large solar facility. He's looking to install more than the 25 kW that meets our initial requirements, and we're working with him to develop the size and how we can work together to do that. So we're working with that customer to do that. We also have another group who's come in who wishes to install solar on about 30 to 40 homes. They're a little bit different in the fact that they want to install the solar and then take the rebate for themselves to reward their investors. So it's really a good program. They've been able to reduce the cost of those, so that's the good side. The bad side is it's not within our parameters to let them keep that rebate. So we're working with them to see how we can work things out so they can install some solar and do that under the guidelines that we have. And then finally, our operations crew has been busy doing the switching for the outages that Rich has been taking to switch out poles and to fix those pole bands. And they've also continued to work on reconfiguring our SCADA system, changing settings and our interface so that everything is in place when the Falcon Ridge substation comes online. And that's my report, unless you have additional questions.
My report first will wish the Marine Corps a happy birthday.
Hey, Semper Fi.
There we go. Some things of note. Valley Electric, and this comment was spurred by the letter. Valley Electric has 110 employees. Their revenues are about 20 to 30% higher than ours, but they have 110 employees. We're looking to put on 10 additional, 5 of which are linemen, and they're advertising a lineman salary at $40 an hour. That's it's informational. We attended the Colorado River Commission, and the water report for the year is not looking well for Lake Mead. They are only expecting about a 65% of normal with the water into the lake. That will not trigger equalization with Lake Powell. There will be enough water that equalization will not take place. And the idea is to keep both lakes at roughly the same, 50% or 60% or whatever. The goal would be to keep them both around 50% right now, but there's only about a 20% chance that equalization will take place.
Do we know anything about the storing of the Mexico water? Even though the one person was worried that they were pumping Mexico water, which is not drinkable, back up?
Yeah, that was not, the idea would be that we would store that in Lake Mead for later release. I don't know that there's been any definitive decision on that.
Would that affect the levels for us?
That would affect the levels. It's about 1 million acre-feet goes into Mexico. I don't know how much they're proposing to store though, but any excess they would store and allow Mexico to take at a later date.
Right now, they're looking to get local approval or agreement to do that, so they're working with Southern Nevada Water Authority, but they haven't taken that to the state entities yet for approval.
So we don't see an improvement in the hydro resources for the coming water year. BPA, Bonneville Power Association, is proposing a 9.5% increase in their power costs. That will affect Wells Rural Electric mostly, and they also have a 13% hike in transmission costs. As you recall, our transmission costs went down as of the July, after the 1st of July. So that's informational. We have 2 items. Mendes Cooper and Doug Waite have both completed the Credential Director Program. We appreciate their willingness to receive that training. We have a list of the courses here that you select from in order to accomplish that. If anyone wants to look at it, see where they're at, we can certainly provide that. But I think, Mike, that leaves you with the holding the educational requirement. You're getting close. I know you're close on that. So, and with that, we will be looking at some of the in the January meeting. We anticipate we'll be discussing some issues such as how items are presented here on the board, particularly the check register and some of those things. Just if you have any input there between now and then, certainly provide that to me. And with that, I think we're ready for the financial.
Just a couple quick questions. That Bonneville Power, the 9% increase, does that also go to Dixie Escalante?
No, Dixie is a wholesale customer of, or an all requirements customer of Deseret, which is a coal-fired facility out of central Utah. The only Nevada entity would be Wells, and they're I believe a all requirements contractor with BPA.
Okay, our operating revenue for October was $3,028,000, a decrease from last month of $579,000. Our cost of purchased power for October was $1,795,000, a decrease from last month of $402,000. The total cost of electric service for October was $2,688,000, a decrease from last month of $361,000. You'll see the margins for September, there was an increase. We had booked an entry for the payment of interest to CFC for September, which was for October, so we've now corrected that entry. September's margins were $745,000. October's was $347,000, giving us a year-to-date of $966,000.
One of the things we need to take into consideration on year-to-date, typically November and December are losing months. So we're still projecting approximately $500,000 as a margin at the end of the year, not close to $1 million.
Our total utility plant service for October is $93,630,000. Our net utility plant as of the end of October was $75,872,000, giving us total assets and other debits of $91,238,000. Our margins and equities from the liability side of our balance sheet was $33,134,000. Our equity as a percentage of our assets, you can see for October, was 36.32%. And again, our liabilities and other credits is the $91,238,000. Our cash balance as of October 31st was $3,592,000, an increase from last month of $484,000. With liabilities of customer deposits, work order deposits, construction done, and refunds to the state, we have a total available cash of $3,442,000. This month, we received 15 connect fees for $23,550. Our current billing arrangements were 86 for $15,699, and the number of customers as of the end of the month was 13,920. Here is the breakdown for the CFC and bonds. You can see that the quarterly payment for CFC is due on December 31st, and that will be paid in full and on time. At the bottom, you can see that the debt service schedule interest payment is due for bonds on December 31st, and that also will be paid in full and on time. The bonds, we make a monthly payment that is transferred into that account. The CFC payment, it will come from our cash account at the end of the year. Here is a breakdown of revenue by customer class. If you look at the bottom, you can see that our monthly cost for October was at 6 cents, our monthly revenue was at 10 cents, and our 2012 average cost was at 6 cents. Here we have a graphical representation of our margins for the month. You can see that we very closely are following the same trend for 2012 that we are for 2011. I looked into March of 2011, and we had 2 large jobs that closed at that time that gave us that spike. If we didn't have those, you would see that it would trend the same. And we're, again, as Terry said, we're anticipating that downward growth for November and December, just like we had in 2011.
That brings us to a review and the monthly expenditures. You had those in advance. You had an opportunity, I was supposed to review those. I have. I'm looking for a motion to send those to our auditor for future auditing and for review.
I'll make that motion to send it to the auditor.
I have a motion to send the monthly expenditures to the auditor for review and future audit. Do I get a second?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. That brings us to item H, which is the replacement of a district trustee. First, I think we probably need a motion to accept the resignation of Craig Anderson, our representative at large. Do I hear such a motion?
Make that motion.
Okay, I have a motion to accept the resignation as of October 23rd. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, all in favor? Aye.